order. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from,
I might have a request before we start. We ask the audience to take their conversations outside and turn their cell phones to vibrate. Is that possible, Mr. Chairman?
you've already said it.
Thank you.
We did. The first item on the agenda is the approve the minutes from the previous meeting. I think we had two sets of minutes to approve. The meeting April 9th, and we had a meeting of May the 5th. I move that the minutes from the previous meetings be approved with the necessary corrections. Questions on the motion? There being none, those in favor of the motion vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. The motion passes. The minutes are approved. Unfinished business. Will we have anything on the unfinished business? Anyone on commissioners, any unfinished business? If not, we'll move to new business. The first item under new business is the manual audit results. And Will, you should have that. And
Yes, after the election, we take all of the total tapes from each one of the polling sites, including absentee and early voting, and compare those to what has come from the computer. Obviously, to do it from stem to stern is takes more time than a day and a half. So I had them, due to the questions having been raised on the county judge's race, had them do that, and it came out to the exact number that came from the computer. They're here for your review, if you so choose. We will, just add those into the record.
it'll take me about a week to look
Yeah,
at all of this.
it takes a while to do it. We've had two people here with 10 keys just banging away at it.
Would anyone about the commission want to take a look at that at this point?
Motion to accept as presented at the appropriate time.
Okay, it's been a motion to accept at the appropriate time, and I think that motion is in order. Those in favor of the motion vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The only thing that I would like to add, if I could, is that the fact that we secure this material and make sure that any materials related to the judge's race be secured in a fashion that it can't be tampered.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the recount request from Mr. Ivan Whitfield.
Mr. Whitfield came today and presented an appropriate letter and payment based on 25%, 25 cents per vote. The only thing he is asking to have recounted are the early votes. And so I based that on, got the check in there, I don't remember what the exact amount is. I think it was $913.50 based on the number of votes that were cast. Need to know when y'all would like to carry that out.
Okay? We'll just say y'all. We were talking about.
Us and you and it will take, in the manner that, and I think with the intent of the law, to go back and roll those all out and highlight the vote for Adam Whitfield, vote for Dutch King. It will take a considerable amount of time, and we'll need some manpower.
Tell me about what a considerable amount of time means, and tell me what considerable manpower means.
I haven't counted the total number of rolls. I'm going to estimate them at probably 30, because we get an average of 100 voters per RTAO roll, and looking at roughly 32 rolls. That's 32 individual rolls that have to be completely strung out and tabulated. How long it takes someone to do that, I don't know. I've never done it like that before. In a previous recount, which was Bill Brummett and
Don Scott?
Don Scott, we did go to the the audit log that is produced by the ERM program. However, Mr. Whitfield has said that he would really prefer to go with the rolls.
Do we have a letter to that?
I'm sorry, yes, I have it right here on my desk. His request and how he thought it should be done is not in the letter, it's what he relayed to me.
And I'll share this with the rest of the commissioners. The letter reads, it comes to the chairperson of the election commission, certainly, and all. I am respectfully requesting a paper count of all early voting ballots from the 2014 primary election held in Jefferson County. Please find attached a check for proceedings to count. So you got the check.
Yes, sir, I do.
And the check is in the amount of,
Let me double check, but I think it's $813.50.
I just want to have that for our record, so we know what, specifically what. Well, I'm sorry, Stuart, I didn't realize.
Well, two things. I'm wondering if maybe we overcharged them because,
That's okay,
no,
we keep the money.
we just charge them for the Democratic preferential primary recount or the entire recount?
I added up strictly what was in, because we have to process
Okay.
those. We have to process through those.
Back to the recount, it says, the County Board of Election Commissioners either may, and it's our decision, manually sum the total votes for each candidate involved in the record that is printed on the voter verified paper audit trail. That means we add up the RTL tapes, you know, or count by hand the votes. Well, it's the same thing. So I don't see where anything other than counting the tapes is involved.
The only time, other than counting the RTL rolls, if somebody came in and had dumped one in the water, or
Roger that.
one of them is missing, the backup to that is using the total tape that is generated by the machine at the polling site, is the backup to that.
Are we allowed to use a highlighter or otherwise, you can just endorse it if you want. Are we allowed, being that the RTL tape is a paper ballot, are we allowed, whoever does it, to put a highlight on there or a mark on the ballot?
I think a highlight, it's my understanding just through some minimal discussions, highlighting the ballot is not changing the
No.
ballot. So I think that would be appropriate and reasonable.
What I'm thinking about is a team, one to go through and highlight, one to go through and count, another to double count, and give Mr. Whitfield's team the opportunity to observe everything to ensure we did not miss a vote, if that's okay with the others. It's going to be time consuming. We're going to need, how many, now do we take it off the RTL for each of the 7 machines?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to need a couple of teams, several teams at least. How long, how many?
Tell me numbers if you don't know.
Well, I'm thinking, how many, well, see, here's the problem. You don't know, each tape, each transaction on the tape is recorded. And there's only 1,000 something, I don't have the numbers,
Per
in
tape.
the other primaries. So they're just gonna go through the thing and mark it. I think we should have 4 teams, bring in the canvas crew, maybe the absent, well, some of those folks aren't up to a hard day's work, though, darn it.
Well, they did it on Tuesday, sure enough.
Well,
But I have discussed it with the absentee crew about coming in another day.
Look at the CT.
Oh, I'm gonna actually speak in a minute, when I get through on my wing.
You can come off the bench, it's okay. It's all right, it's all right.
I'll take that seat then.
It's okay. It's okay. So, now, let's talk about dates, because we have to do this prior to,
well, we have to meet Monday anyway.
We can't meet Monday, it's a holiday.
Okay, well, then they have until, well, there's only one. Why not tomorrow? I'm ready to rock and roll.
I don't know if I can get people together tomorrow. I mean, some of our people take off work to come and.
Well, we
and work
have 10 days.
for us. We have till next Friday, if you'll give me until possibly.
We have 10 days to get this done.
We have 10 days before we have to certify.
Okay,
We have until next Friday to have everything done.
okay, so we need to do,
I need to do this Tuesday to get everything done.
okay,
Well,
you
we
wanna work
have-
on Saturday? You don't wanna work on
Well,
Saturday?
Monday is Memorial Day.
Yes,
Does the candidate have a preference?
Chief,
I'll make it.
other than as soon as possible, I'm sure it's what you're thinking, okay, we need to do that.
And to
So-
make it
so-
possible and practical.
It's Tuesday?
Probably Tuesday is gonna be,
Tuesday?
Okay, well, what's the
If
date?
I had a preference, whenever you all let me say something, I want to add something to that if I don't want to be out of turn.
No, you're not.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask that we hear from, if it's appropriate, let's hear from Mr. Whitfield. You know,
Consensus?
we're pretty easy.
Okay, okay. Let's go through it.
You know, I am out in Whitfield, and I am the candidate for District County Judge. And it's, the old folks say this is the second rodeo around. I wrote that letter, that was another letter that I gave them yesterday as well, but it pretty much said the same thing, but just a little bit more detail. My goal was to try to get those, what I call the ballot off the early vote machine, the paper trail, to count those to confirm the 207 early votes that were reported. Since then, and I stand here today because I'm bothered because I feel like the integrity of the election has been, where I'm from, they call it tainted. Reason why I say that is that when I came in today, and I have a letter here that I want to present to everybody. When I came to bring the check today, there were, Mr. Fox told me that he had, there was a roll of votes missing. And I think it's this board responsibility, and it's not about Whitfield. It's this board responsibility to assure the citizens of Jefferson County that the integrity of the voting process in this community would always be intact. Whether they find something on Whitfield, numbers right or wrong, is not the issue to me. It's bigger than that. I look back at last year's election and people complain about things. This board has to say to the community, we cannot have anybody thinking some irregularity has happened. All across this community, that's what they're saying. I'm feeling it because I would not have written you an $800 check, and that's not a campaign check, that's a Whitfield check. That's a record number. That's a Whitfield check. Literally, and I'm okay with you all keeping that check.
No,
But in the real world,
So we'll reduce it if we can, right?
no, but no, I'll tell you, in the real world, this board should be saying to Whitfield, we're not gonna take your check. It's our responsibility to assure the community that this is fair, that this election is fair. But I want you to keep that $800 check, and I wanna follow the rules. But at the end of the day, I think this board should say that. And the only way you're gonna tell people that it's fair, that try to get the integrity back, is not only to do what I asked, I think you all have a responsibility to do more. There may be some people can't pay what Whitfield paid. They too need to be treated fairly. And they may not have the money to do it. And this board has been put up here and established to take care of not Whitfield, but to everybody. And let me say this, and I'll be short. There are some things that need to be considered when I say that we're asking for a federal investigation. Because one, I say that nothing should ever be missing in 2 days, a roll of anything when it comes to voting. That's a precious piece of paper that never should be discarded. Anytime one, and I think Will said he had 32, 31 intact, and one missing, something wrong. I'm asking you all tonight to get all 32 of them, put them in a box, and tape it up. I think this commission ought to sign off on it. There are some, I'm not sure what you call it, I call them data cards, but whatever.
Flashcards.
They flashcards. I think you ought to get those, seal them up, sign off on it, unless there's some reason for them to be floating. I don't, like right now, I think this commission should know where those flashcards at. That's where the votes are. Now, that may be under his control, but it's vitally important. And when you look at those things, when I found out yesterday that the person that crunched the numbers was the ex-mayor executive assistant, I'm bothered by that. This commission has a responsibility to make sure the whole community, not Whitfield, I want to keep striving it, but the ex-mayor executive assistant, ex-executive assistant, is the one that crunched the numbers. That don't look good. You cannot make people believe that that's a fair process. I don't believe it. And I'm saying to you, you all have to come to the plate and say, we've got to clear it up. And those numbers, with the roll being missing, if we'll go back and say he found them under the desk, I'll still say, if y'all call in a monitor to look up some absentee, and don't call in a monitor and figure out what happened to that roll, you all have not treated the citizens of Pine Bluff fair, Jefferson County. I'm saying, now's the time to do it. In the real world, we wouldn't just ask for it for 14. We'll ask for it for 12. Clear yourself. I'm challenging you. Clear yourself and say, let's do it. What does it hurt? If the Fed said he won't come, we can say we tried. But if you don't ask him, I just think we have enough things that has happened and occurred and on this body to ask him to come. And I don't drop bombs outside and I don't drop inside. And I said the same thing to Mr. Sofer when I was here one night when y'all was arguing about his gadget he had that fit our screen, that fit our voting machine. Last year was in his possession this year. This ain't what nobody told me. I was at the meeting when he pulled it out. I'm saying it is too much uncertainty out there in the community. And you all have a responsibility to clear it up. And if you take that $813, you don't have to give it back to me. I'm just asking you to do the right thing. Ask the feds to come in. If they don't find nothing, you have tried your best to put the integrity back in our election system. If you don't do it, you have failed the community. So I'm asking that you will consider what my attorney asked you all to, not to certify anything, to ask for, put it on the record tonight. And I hope the whole board will vote for it. There'll be no dissension. If you know you have not done anything, let them come in and look at it. Let them come in and count the ballot. You all should not have to get a team. I think that if they thought something's wrong, when you tell them these things have occurred, they should bring in their own team to count those ballots and say, you know, this is right and that's wrong. At the end of the day, the people will believe it. That's what I want to say.
Sure. The letter from, no, the one here.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. It goes upon the minutes here. You might want to take this letter here too. Okay. As an attachment to the minutes. I put a check number on it. You already got that check number and the number. So we will.
I have a question,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Whitfield. When you were in here, Mr. Whitfield, were you not offered the opportunity on?
What I was thinking was, I was gonna have Will kind of explain what he did, and then, if that's,
Yes, sir.
okay? Okay. Well, you might wanna address some of the query that was made by
Sure.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yeah.
All right.
No problem.
And then Stu following that, if there's any questions.
He'll probably cover it.
Okay.
First and foremost, it was my mistake. There were 7 machines that came from early voting. When they put those into my office, and when I say 7 rolls, there's 7 machines, the final rolls that came out of those. When they put those into my office, I counted 7 rolls. I did not realize until I was auditing things today that one of those rolls ran out. And unless you deal with these machines, you wouldn't understand this. They quit printing when the machine runs out of paper. You have to load in another roll of paper. So it picked up, I think I've forgotten what the first one ended with, but the second one started back with, I think, Jody Dennis's race. And then prints out all the pertinent information after that. I went back and looked in the satchel, which is still segregated in my office, and did not see anything. Went back through the boxes of both the RTAL tapes that I had received and the RTAL tapes that had been in the custody of the county clerk since the beginning of early voting. Went through all of that, went back, checked the satchel again. By this point, I had notified the chairs or the members of the two respective parties, and Ms. Sims, I did not, but our normal has been, if you tell the chairman, who is of the Democratic Party, you have to relay the same information to the Republican members, so I called Stu. And after I had looked all over this place, I went back and looked through the satchel for a third time. And when I just dug my hands through the bottom and started flipping stuff out, because I couldn't figure out there, this is the only place I could figure out it could be, because I'd emptied that box 4 or 5 times. I found the RTAL tape all the way down on the bottom, and it was found. It's never been outside this office. It hadn't been anywhere, and it hadn't been tampered with. I just couldn't put my finger on it. But I have now, and it's all back in place. And that's the entire explanation of what we're discussing here.
Stu?
When Mr. Whitfield came in and wanted to review the RTL tapes, and the attorney indicated they were paper ballots and you couldn't, why didn't you offer to let him review the flash discs on ER? You can.
I did. We went back to where we tabulate the votes on the computer and pulled up a by precinct absentee vote record of every vote that was cast and offered that to him. I think it's an 800 some odd page report.
And that report is available right now on ERM.
Yes, it is.
How long would it take to print 800 pages?
800 some odd pages. It'd take a little bit, but it can be produced.
What, is that 800 pages just for the early vote?
Yes?
Okay. Because that's what we're really just focusing on
Yes.
here, is just the early vote.
Would you like to save your money, Mr. Whitfield, and if the commission agrees, we print that report and give it to you for free to review? And then, if you still feel like you want to recount after reviewing it, come back Monday, or excuse me, contact the coordinator, it depends if the other two commissioners agree. We have nothing to hide, okay? And as far as your comment about the PEB in my personal possession, you know, PEB is like a computer without Windows loaded. It's an innocuous item. And don't take my word for it, here's a gentleman from another county, ask him. But that's not the issue. I would be more than happy to make a motion that tomorrow we print that report for you with one of your people standing right there. Maybe the only thing I might ask you to pay for is the printer cartridge if we burn up a cartridge, a couple of reams of paper is chump change. We will give you that report to review line by line. What that report will be is everything that is on the RTL tape, and there's a blank tape, by the way, would be on. Now, I want to add one more thing to this, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Not only do these computers, these Ivotronics, have the tape, not only do they have the flash card, there is also a built-in disk that we cannot access. So there's 3 safeguards to anybody committing fraud. And anybody, I mean, any investigator can go in. I know these machines inside and out, and we all think, I think everybody understands. What do you think about my proposal? Save you the money. But I wouldn't want Miss Loretta not going to the beach this year.
No, she's still going, but I would say this, I want you to keep the check, but I'll take the printout. I want to go ahead, I want the process to go on.
You want the recount?
I mean, I'll take the paperwork, But I want you to keep the check and continue to
What-
do the
RTL.
RTL. That is, if you all decline to ask for the feds. Let me say that. My preference is, we ask for a federal investigation. If you decline that, then I want the
Well,
process.
May I comment on that? I don't think we could get somebody in here in the time constraints that we have to certify an election. I don't think we could get a federal investigation because there is a federal election commission, but they're not dealing with, I don't mean to minimize your race or campaign or the office, but they're not coming down and looking at county-wide races. They're looking at federal election law. They're looking at MOVE Act, UOCAVA Act, and federal races. So even though I don't, if we could find somebody to come in, it's fine with me. It doesn't make me any difference.
It would make me a difference. There's no need for an investigation.
Sometimes an investigation is the best thing that can happen to clear the air. I have no issues with somebody coming in and investigating anything that my staff has done.
At this point, I don't understand. I mean, do you still want to recount plus the printout? I'm
Yeah,
offering to.
I want to leave I don't want to take the $800 off the table. I want to do whatever that will allow me to do.
We're not entitled to the $800 without a recount.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things.
Yeah, we are.
I believe. I think your offer is generous, and I think it
Well,
was well
first of
taken.
all,
It's well taken.
do the other two agree with the offer? That would be the first question.
Well, yeah, if we're gonna talk about giving him access to the information that you just talked about, fine. But I think that his request goes to the RTAL tapes, all right, which is the tape that, that provides the election information he's requesting. Now, I would like to see us provide that information. And if there's a cost associated with that, whatever minimal amount that can be, I would like for us to do that. I don't know if that's,
Excuse me, when you say provide that information, the information that's on the RTL tape?
yeah,
That comes off the discs.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But that's not what he's requesting. That's all I'm saying. So
Yeah, I'm suggesting that might save him, and if he wants to give away money, fine. I've got, but the point is, the law does not permit us to accept a check or donations, and what I'm offering is on us to give him the confidence the man deserves.
Again, I think your point is well taken.
However you want to handle it,
It
Mr.
makes,
Chairman.
well, it's not about me handling it. We need to have a consensus as to what takes place. The point is that, yes, I think your offer is absolutely on target and is extremely generous. However, that's not what he is requesting. I want to get back to the point that he's requesting the real-time audit law, okay? And in that, if that's what he wants to have in order for him to feel that he has made the query that he needs to make, then we need to provide that. In addition to, if we would accept this other information, we'll do it.
He doesn't
I
get to
think-
handle the RTL logs. We handle the RTL logs and the recount.
I understand.
Yeah.
That's why we talked about possible tomorrow, and you said you didn't have anything to do. Will said he did.
No,
And-
excuse me, I have something to do. But it doesn't make sense to have the 800-page printout and also do the recount is what I'm suggesting, so.
May I?
Yes.
It would probably be easier to give him the manual returns and have him process those himself. That is an option,
What manual returns?
manual audit returns.
I have nothing to hide.
Okay, and let me tell you where I'm going, Johnny. I want him, and he's just stated, the community to feel that the Jefferson County Election Commission is using whatever necessary recourse there is to make sure that voters feel that their vote was cast to the person that they cast it for. And that we maintain the degree of integrity that we need to maintain here. I think that, so in order for him and others to feel that that's the case, then I agree with him. If he wants the RTL tapes, audited, you know, we kind of got somewhere around twos that'll probably try to do that. Will talked about bringing in some additional people to assist in that effort. Then I think that's where we need to go as a commission, all right? If there's some other information that, Stu, that validates the 800 pages or whatever, if he would like to have access to that, certainly. I think it's a consensus among us that we have that. However, if the RTAL tapes is what he's looking for to review, and he feels confident that he's done the right thing, as well as the commission maintains the integrity that it needs to maintain to the voters of this community, and I think that's what we need to do. Because if we took the position now that we are not gonna do the RTAL tape, then we take the position that, well, one was missing for 6 hours, okay? The question becomes, where was it, who had it, why, you know, we understand you found it, but still the query is there, the question is there.
Certainly.
All right, and that's what I'm trying to.
But as we discussed, the entire process of early voting is not under this office.
Well, I understand.
And we have not had that control over all those tapes until the very end of early voting. So therefore, some of those roles, if we get into this process and they are not accounted for, they are not, that is in no way under the scope of myself or this commission, because early voting is not under the control of this group.
Okay. Let me say this. I understand what you're saying, that early voting is a responsibility of the county clerk. However, I think this commission says that fairness in voting is our responsibility, or the
counting of votes.
Counting of
that are
votes
delivered to
only,
us
yeah.
is 100% this commission's responsibility.
Right.
The integrity of the documents that certify that are split between this commission and the county clerk's office.
Okay.
We have absolutely no control over
we
what
will
until
bring
it's
in,
delivered.
we will bring forth anyone, anywhere, who has anything to do with this, to make sure that our integrity is at stake.
I
I think
100% agree with that.
I think the law says that Jefferson County Election Commission handles all of the elections in Jefferson County according to state law, and that's what we want to do.
Excuse me, it does not, sir. It says the county clerk is responsible.
No, I didn't say anything about that.
We have, let me ask a question if I may, though. Can an RTL tape be altered? I'm not understanding. You cannot alter an RTL tape. So,
Unless it's damaged or has been.
That's my point.
It has been removed.
and how many RTL tapes do we have from early voting?
I have to go back there and count.
Approximately.
Exactly. Roughly 30, 32, somewhere along
We read what the book says here, this is just a little.
Yeah, but that's not an official.
But it's official to me.
Well,
It says-
excuse me,
It's a
let's
primary.
not get into it, we've
We
been
don't
over
want
this
to.
ground.
We've done very well. I'm just saying what does the county commissioner do? So the primary function of the county commissioner is to administer elections in the county according to the law.
Who
state of
published
Arkansas.
that brochure?
Yeah, you probably helped. That's not the point. The point is, that's where we want to, that's what we want to do, Stu. I'm not in disagreement with you, okay? I'm not in disagreement with you. I'm just saying that specifically.
Let me tell you, I wish we had some authority over early voting and some of that foolishness would stop. I guarantee that much.
Well, I think the state law says the clerk handles the
Early voting.
I'm satisfied with that. I don't think until there's something or some evidence presented that somehow something to the contrary happened, we're gonna take the position in this board, I'm hoping, that we do the right thing here.
I would ask for one thing on the RTL tapes that we're talking about. I want them I want to ask they be inspected by a third party to see if any of them have been altered. The missing tape, the missing Artel, I'd like that. Is the missing Artel available? I'd like it inspected to see it. In other words, you can't alter the darn things once they're printed, so I don't understand. I mean, you can't replace them with another Artel tape that's been manipulated. You have to have and they're all date time.
But let me just ask this question. Mr. Whitfield is requesting that he do that. He have access to them. What is the resistance in opposition to that?
The public cannot handle ballots that are cast.
No, we don't want to give it to him. I don't want to give it to him. I want us to do what we need to do here.
Let's do the recount. I mean, that's
what I'm saying.
the end of it. Yeah, I'm not trying to resist the recount.
Okay.
I'm just trying to save the man money.
But if there's some way we could look at what he spent, if there's some way for us to reduce that to a minimum, I'd like to try to do that if we could, okay?
However you want to handle it. You know, I'm a conservative Republican, so I'm astute. I'm of the Jewish faith, so I'm cheap. I'm just trying to save some money.
Well, I understand being broke, so that's not we're on the same page with that. However,
So, do you need a motion or anything, Mr. Chairman, to move on?
well, yeah, but I wanna try to, what is your motion? Do you have a motion?
Our motion is we accept Mr. Whitfield's request for a recount. We present him the documents we're required to present him immediately, I believe. We're supposed to present them.
I have them being processed out of the
Yeah.
county clerk's office.
We,
and we'll have those in the morning.
We seal the Artel tapes in however we can seal it in the container, and at least two of us, preferably three, initial, and maybe invite Mr. Whitfield to initial. And then we agree on a date for the recount. We do it here, and we get it over with.
Okay, I'm not supposed to like be able to repeat everything you said, right? But
What he said. I think the secretary's got it on tape, and she's got it there.
okay, I think you mentioned the majority of the requests that Mr. Whitfield has made. So I don't think we need a second to that. So on that motion, is there any further discussion? There being none, those in favor of the motion vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Okay? Now, there was another part of Mr. Whitfield's motion that went to us soliciting some outside support, specifically federal support. And again, I think he makes a good argument for us in terms of attempting to ensure that our voting community, that the integrity exists within the Jefferson County Election Commission. He gave a litany of several things that had happened over previous years, which I don't want to go back through again. But this, I think, is just another link in the chain of what people think relative to the negativity that might be existing in the Jefferson County Election Commission. So therefore,
In law, number one, for that. You know, you can send requests, well, there's just no reason for it, there's no authority for us to do that in election law. The candidate is got several avenues of recourse. If the candidate feels that federal law has been broken, if the candidate wants assistance, I would encourage him to call the U.S. Attorney, Eastern District of Arkansas, Tricia Harris. You've met Tricia, or she addressed us. Happen to have her phone number right here. I would encourage the candidate to do anything that he wants to do, but I do want to make one comment, and I know this is going to be taken the wrong way. I can live with it. It is not the entire Jefferson County that doesn't have confidence in the system. It is a segment of the county, primarily in Pine Bluff, but the attorney for the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Washington's phone number is 501-340-2600. I have the email, no, I don't have the email. I would ask Patricia Harris and make the request. I mean, if we send something over to the prosecuting attorney, there's no authority and he operates on legal basis. So whatever the pleasure of my associates is, I will support.
Okay. I think you have a number that you wanted to, that you kind of gave out, and we'll get that later, and we'll provide it to anyone who needs to that number to make contact with the with that office. The other point I want to get back to again, and that is that we want it to be the directive of the Election Commission to send to our attorney a request that he contact maybe the Eastern Division to look at an investigation into this matter here in Jefferson County.
I'll make the motion at the appropriate time.
What I just said,
What do you say?
okay, that we send, that the commission request an investigation by the federal authorities,
What are we asking them to investigate?
this election, I mean,
Yes, I agree with that. I absolutely agree on how this election was conducted, absolutely.
and
And we're
specific,
gonna start with the absentee ballots and the absentee ballot register and the political practices pledge that was back. Yes, sir, I make that motion.
okay, you gotta stop hitting things too.
Pardon me, I get a little bit exuberant.
But because that's really not what Mr. Whitfield is asking for, okay? I think Mr. Whitfield is to be looked at, and that's where we want to go with that, okay?
I'm all for an investigation of this election.
Well, let me go back to the point.
We're not in public forum now, are we, Mr. Chairman?
We are in public forum, yes.
We're not in public forum yet, I don't believe.
What do you mean?
Public comments.
Public comment, let's,
No, I'm gonna come down to that, that's another part of our agenda.
yeah, that's at the end, okay.
Yeah. But what I want to do at this point is put on the table a motion that we contact our attorney, to have him contact the Justice Department relative to those in favor of the motion, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carried and so ordered. So we will be contacting him to make that contact ASAP. With it. All right. We have, anything else on that item? The next agenda item is to process provisional ballots from election day. And is that to be done here, or are you gonna do it, you have it all here?
Yeah, I have everything here. First thing is provisional ballots on election day. We had one voter that did not show ID. I need to send her a letter. I wouldn't say we should count these until we can do them all at once. Say on that meeting on Tuesday, we could have this in combination with the recount.
Okay, so someone needs to come in and bring ID?
Did they have the week-long cure period
I'm sorry.
on the election day ballots?
Okay.
It says on here that she shows to be registered, the clerk has signed off on it. She just didn't provide ID, so to
Let me make sure I understand why we're waiting on counting, because if we only count one ballot, we know how the person voted, but if we have several ballots, we don't know how they voted.
Right, and the other two were received, one from the Labor Temple and one from Pines Mall. ID was provided. It's apparent in what I checked out, what I could, that they probably should have been voted electronically and just updated their voter registration. But the clerk has signed off that they are valid votes and should be counted. So I would say we wait until Tuesday when we have the hearing or the cure period ends for this one, and that way we count them all three at the same time to protect voter identity.
Okay. The chair, any discussion? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to,
So moved.
okay. It's been moved that the provisional ballots from election day be addressed on Tuesday, during our other meeting, and you'll make the contact to the,
Yes, I will make the appropriate contacts.
okay? Any further discussion?
Well, if we could back up, I think the proper thing to do is to, let's see, on the one who has not provided ID, okay, she is properly registered, she just needs ID, so all she has to wait on is the cure period. I will research whatever communications I need to have with her via first-class mail.
Was she given the notice at the poll?
I instructed all poll workers.
That's
to
all
handle
that's
this.
required.
Do it for the ID only, so.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Okay. So those in favor of the motion, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. The motion carries and so on. The next item is the process challenge absentee ballots from the canvas, right? From the canvas board.
All right. Obviously, I believe there were 83 ballots that were disallowed automatically due to lack of voter ID. And with the absence of the cure period for absentee ballots, those were never further processed. So we will not, those are in the box. They're just not to be.
So we have 83 absentee ballots.
That did not know, the voter did not provide voter ID, or.
Was there any other acceptable items other than ID, just
Yes,
as
sir.
ID?
Let me answer that. And the county clerk made it a point of telling them exactly what they could put in. She gave that with every absentee ballot. The reason I have that is another county wanted it. They had all those items they could have put in there, and every voter voted.
To verify their,
So the county clerk did her job.
We have numerous ballots here.
well, let me go back
Okay,
one more
excuse
time.
me,
before we
sorry.
do this. Because I think this is really significant, one way or another in this campaign, that if we had 83 ballots here that was relegated to, not counted, based upon the fact that there were not IDs. And again, it not only goes to, Stu, not only goes to voter ID, but it also goes to some other things that they could have added, which would have been,
A copy of a current and valid photo identification, or a copy of a current utility bill, bank statement, government check, paycheck, or other government document.
okay, it's
I don't know
fine.
how y'all want to handle this next section. These are all by process of the voter, not properly filed. You take this voter, did not give their signature. Ballot.
What do you mean?
That's a sign right here. This voter came back in, said they, I believe, didn't get the appropriate ballot, brought the old ballot back, picked this up, and signed up here, said here. Turned around and walked out the door, didn't bother to finish the process.
I'm going to say I understand what you just told me. But I also have a problem with the fact that if something was not done properly at the polling place,
This was in
especially,
the clerk's office.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it was wherever it was, if it was at the polling place, if at the clerk's office, or whatever. This should never have happened here, because these are the things that we know that we require from a provisional ballot.
I can't tell the clerk's
I-
office to do.
Well, I'm not suggesting you tell the clerk this, okay? Again, I'm not trying to jump on the clerk.
I'm just saying
I'm
I
just,
can't do that. This is totally outside of our control, it's just been delivered.
it's not outside of our control. We need to be able to say
It
to
is
somebody,
outside our.
no, but we're sitting here tonight throwing somebody,
I'm not throwing anybody under the bus.
No,
I'm telling you where it came from, and that I have no control to tell them to do any different.
okay, that's not what I was gonna say.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
May I see the
Yes, I
envelope?
am.
May I see the envelope for a second?
Yeah,
please?
what I'm saying is that regardless of who does it, whether it's the clerk or whether it's done at the polling place, we gotta make sure that the affidavits are completed there. We have a responsibility to do that, because a person leaves the polling place thinking that they've cast a ballot and hadn't, and then we are in a position here to not to
Are you
accept
talking
it.
about on election day?
Period, if they do a provisional
We
ballot.
have a checklist that we require our people to follow.
So I'm agreeing with that, I'm not,
Yeah.
that's not what
Well,
I'm saying.
No, you're absolutely right. We have an obligation. But you know, sometimes these folks
Okay.
get
I'm
hot.
getting a little irate.
No, I understand, I understand. But what I'm saying, I'll repeat this again. We have a responsibility that when we give out a provisional ballot, that we go through that with the voter. That's why we go back to the point you just made, that there is a checklist of all the things we need to do.
Preach it to the choir.
And for us to end up today, following the election, with provisional ballots with things that a ballot cannot be counted because we didn't have the person to sign that, is partially our responsibility as
No,
well.
it's not.
Again,
It is not our responsibility.
well, we're gonna
in
take
the
it,
least.
we're gonna take it there. We're gonna tell our poll workers to make sure that,
Our poll workers did it right.
Okay.
These are their ballots.
Look.
That came from the clerk's office. They delivered that to us. It's in no way our staff's fault.
okay.
And
I'm not saying that our staff had not done their job, but whoever did this has not done their job. That's the point that I'm making. Well, I'm not trying
That very
to,
well
I'm not
may
trying to
be.
absolve anyone of any responsibility. I'm saying that
I agree with
the
that.
support of the clerk and anyone else who's doing this to ensure that when people file their ballot, that all of the proper procedures are taken. That's the point that I'm
I
making.
totally agree with you.
That's the point that I'm making.
I
Okay.
totally agree.
why don't we send them a copy of our checklist to use?
Agreed. It doesn't matter. Whatever it takes to make sure that when our citizens.
There are 12 ballots here that for whatever sundry reason listed on the front, the ballot app is incomplete, no voter address.
Okay, let's just go one at a time.
All right.
All right, you tell us what's wrong, we'll review it, and then from that, we'll make some decisions based upon that.
If I may,
Okay, we need to address
excuse
this
me a
one
second,
first.
Will. All of these were set aside because the law says they shall not be counted.
That is correct.
So the reason they were set aside is the law says they shall not be counted. So with all due respect, we don't have any wiggle room. The law says if it doesn't meet this requirement, we can't count it. It's a done deal.
I don't have an issue with that.
Okay.
Tell us, this one does not have a signature. We only have a small amount here. Tell,
All right.
If you'll forgive me for a second, please continue.
Ballot app incomplete, no voter address. Ballot app incomplete, no voter date of birth. And which y'all are
Right.
certainly welcome to open them up and double check that to see if the canvas group has fulfilled their responsibility. Ballot app
now, this one
incomplete.
had, what was wrong with this?
It's all listed right. Ballot app incomplete, no voter date of birth. Ballot app incomplete, no voter signature.